not long ago, I had an idea that could address concerns in three key areas of agriculture. The first, food security, where staple crops could be made safer to eat and more affordable. Second, economic security, where farmers could be given a chance to increase their profits. And finally, pest control, where we could decrease the need to use chemicals in controlling insects. Now, my idea was a good one, but I found that I had this huge obstacle in front of me: myself. I'm young, and the opportunities for young people in agriculture, at least those who have a more entrepreneurial mindset, they're far and few in between. So this could be why a lot of young people don't really see that they have a future in agriculture. But before I continue, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am a bug guy. I love and I appreciate the beauty and uniqueness of insects. And I understand that they play a role in any agricultural system. And most importantly, I understand that one of the keys to sustainable agriculture is knowing proper pest management. In the Philippines alone, we lose millions of tons of crops due to stored product pests. These pests, they would destroy the crops, they would lower market value, and ultimately, they would decrease farmer profits and quality for consumers. Now, I want you to take a look at this damaged soybean. This is the kind of damage that they do. And to think that if you were a farmer, would you imagine yourself selling something like this? As a consumer, can you imagine yourself buying, much less eating, something like this? So to combat these problems, farmers back home employ two very different methods of pest control. It's either expensive or it's low cost. Now, expensive control normally relies on using chemicals. And this is what a lot of the larger agricultural companies use. And I understand why chemicals are a very popular option. They're reliable, they produce quick results, so farmers can see a quick return on their investments. However, I see that the problem is not so much the use of the chemicals, but how farmers are educated in their use. Because when chemicals are used over and over on food, it leaves a residue. But what's more worrying is that insects that are not killed during your first application will develop a kind of resistance. And then in the future, you're going to need more chemicals, which are more toxic, to deal with these bugs. And farmers back home, especially those from rural areas, they are not aware of this problem. So that's for chemical control. And now we move on to low cost. And low cost is where farmers would use whatever tools and methods they have available for them. And this is an example that I find near and dear to my heart. It's how farmers would control stored product pests. In the Philippines, no matter where you go, these pests will remain the same. They're weevils and they're beetles. And what many farmers would do is they'd get a sheet of corrugated metal, and they'd hammer it out until it's reasonably flat, and then they get a thin screwdriver and they punch out holes. And they produce this crude sieve, and they use it to sieve out the bugs, to remove it from the grains. But the problem is that it's very wasteful. You remove as much bugs as you do the produce, and it does nothing to control the pests that are already inside feeding on the grains. So now, with these problems in mind, I had to ask myself, what if I could offer our farmers an alternative that is effective, that is affordable, and that is sustainable and accessible? And luckily, in April of this year, there was a competition called the Young Agripreneurs Program that gave me this opportunity. So now let's go back to my idea. It is a machine called the Mechanical Pest Removal System, or the MPRES for short. Now you're probably asking yourselves, oh, what is this MPRES she's talking about? Well, let me tell you, and I hope by the end of this session, you will all be impressed. So, with the help of engineers back home, we designed a machine that operates on 3 simple principles: mechanical, organic, and manual. And to make it easy for people to remember, we called it MOM. So, just think of MOM. So first, it's mechanical. The machine is designed to run on gears and chains. There is no complicated wiring. There is no electrical component, which allowed us to keep the costs down. And it's easy for farmers to maintain and to operate. A farmer can purchase it and use it over and over again for years with little to no additional cost. Second, it's organic, which means that we are not going to use any chemicals at all to kill or to separate the insects. All we're going to use is heated air, which kills all the insects in all the life stages, from egg to adult. And then after the process, it also kills all the internal feeders as well as external feeders. And then finally, it's purely manual, which means it is powered by a person sitting on a bicycle seat, because we used a set of bike pedals to power the machine. So the strain is no more than one would experience riding a bike. So a farmer who is past his prime age will find no difficulty in powering this machine. And the process itself is as easy as its principles. The farmers would load the grains in the hopper. It would go through the chamber where it's heated to kill the pests. And then at the end of it, there are perforations. The insects will come out, separated from the grain, and the clean grain will come out the other side. That's it. So I submitted the idea. And after 2 grueling weeks of the social media round, where we had to sell our ideas online, I was chosen to be one of the first 6 ever young agripreneurs. And I was given the chance to go to Johannesburg and meet other young agripreneurs from all over the world who brought their own amazing stories and their own amazing projects. So what did I learn? I learned that innovations in agriculture, they don't have to be expensive. They don't have to be complicated, and they don't have to be high-tech. In fact, I think the machine is as far as it can get from all those things. But I do know now that the first thing you need is passion, and you need to know your craft. You need to know what you're talking about. Because everything I've poured into this project comes from me being an entomologist geek. And it fills me with so much warmth when I see people becoming so interested to learn as much about bugs as I want, as I tell them. And back home, we have a term for this. We call it Gillig. It's this warm feeling you feel from your chest to your toes. And it's what I feel when I talk to people from places I've never been to. And they tell me that my project has the capacity to touch and to change their lives. And second, you need to have faith. I've met a lot of challenges during this journey, from financial setbacks to people saying, oh, your project won't make a difference. But I've learned to shrug it all off, because I believe in the help that it can bring people back home. And I believe in the help that it can bring people in other countries. And I believe that it will not only help farmers increase their profits, but also bring them a better quality of life. And lastly, you need a little bit of luck. You can't discount luck. And mine was in the form of a man called Sir Eugene that I met completely by chance. I walked into his fabrication shop because there was a design problem that my team and we couldn't figure it out. And randomly, he asked me, oh, what are you doing here? And out of sheer desperation, I told him. And after listening to my story, he grabbed a piece of chalk and he drew this rough sketch. And he gave me that last piece of the puzzle that I was looking for. And it blew my mind. So You should never be afraid to ask for help as well, because it will always surprise you where it will come from. And now, after so many trials and countless meetings and design changes, I give you the final working prototype of the mechanical pest removal system. We are now in the testing phase, and if everything goes well, we'll move on to mass production. And we are also getting it patented. Not long ago, this machine was a small idea in my head. And now it has grown to include so many people from so many different walks of life. So I leave you with these last two messages. For my fellow youth in agriculture, remember that no idea that you have, especially those that you genuinely believe can bring about change, can ever be too small to matter. And for everybody else, I hope that in the years to come, you keep up with our stories, because we have so much to offer, and it is now time to shine a spotlight on that and on us. Thank you so much.